Good morning. Today is Friday, May 8th, 2020. I just want everyone to notice I'm wearing a t-shirt of my favorite restaurant in Yerushalayim, Crave, right near Machane Yehuda. And I can't wait to get back there. And hopefully we'll all be able to go to Yerushalayim soon and be able to enjoy a great meal at Crave soon. There's an interesting question that came up this year just before Pesach with the problems about Pesach and the Seder and people alone. And there were many people who felt that they just couldn't do it right. They didn't know how, they couldn't deal with it. And the question was asked, could we just delay it by a month and do it on Pesach Sheni instead? Pesach Sheni, which means the second Pesach, is a month later, the 14th of Iyar. I mention this because today is Pesach Sheni. It is the 14th of Iyar. And the Torah says as follows. The Torah says in the Parsha Baloscha that it was the second year that the Jewish people were in the desert, and they were getting ready to they were getting ready for Pesach. That is the first Pesach that would take place in the desert after leaving Egypt. However, there were a number of people who were not able to do the Karban Pesach, the Pesach offering, the sacrifice, because they had become tamei, ritually impure, through performing a mitzvah. And if a person was tamei, they were not able to offer the Karban Pesach. And if a person is tamei, ritually impure, it takes a certain number of days. So if a couple of days before Pesach, an absolute mitzvah comes up that takes priority, that you have to, let's say, engage in burying someone, God forbid, who has no one else to help with the burial, which takes precedence, but now they're not able to offer the Karban Pesach through no fault of their own because they did a mitzvah. So they came to Moshe and they said, well, what should we do? And Moshe said, and this is, boy, I always wish I could say this. Moshe said, hold on a minute, I'll see what God tells me. I always wish I could give that answer, but all right. So that's Moshe. So then Hashem said to Moshe, if a person has a legitimate reason that they were not able to offer the Karban Pesach on the actual date of Pesach, there is a makeup. Perhaps the only example in all of mitzvos where there is such a thing as a makeup. I mean, there's no such thing. If a person couldn't observe Shabbos, you can make it up on Wednesday. But for the Karban Pesach, there is. And Hashem commands that on the 14th of Iyar, 1 month later, you can offer the Karban Pesach and have a Seder, and that's the way that you can make it up. So the question is, well, why can't we do that if we couldn't observe Pesach properly or we didn't feel that we were able to do it? Just do it today. It's an interesting question, but the answer is very clear-cut, and that is that the observance of Pesach Sheni only applies when there is a Karban Pesach, a Pesach sacrifice, when the Beis Hamikdash is standing, and it only applies for a person who was not able to come to Yerushalayim for a valid reason to offer the Karban Pesach. Then a month later, they could come to Yerushalayim and offer the Karban Pesach on the 14th of Iyar. But it only applies to making up the Karban Pesach, which of course we do not have today. It doesn't apply to any other mitzvah. So let's just say, for example, even when the Beis Hamikdash was standing and there was a Karban Pesach, let's say you had a person who, God forbid, was sick on Pesach and they were not able to eat matzah. So they were not able to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah. It's a biblical obligation. Again, through no fault of their own, they were sick. There is no concept that they are able to, on Pesach Sheni, make it up by eating matzah. Doesn't work like that. It doesn't help. Only applies to the Karban Pesach, only applies when the Jewish people is offering the Karban Pesach at the real date. A person who missed it for a legitimate reason could make it up a month later, but sadly, it does not apply in any way to this situation. There was, however, a chance up until sundown last night. And the chance was, there's a dispute in the Talmud. It's not in the Talmud Bavli, but it's in the Talmud Yerushalmi. And the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, asked the following question. What happens if you have Pesach and Pesach passes, and before you get to Pesach Sheni, Mashiach comes, the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, and Karbanos sacrifices are reinstituted. So now you come to Pesach Sheni, do we say that everybody can offer a carbon Pesach? Because we legitimately were not able to offer it on the real Pesach because there was no Beis Hamikdash, but now there's a Beis Hamikdash, and we can offer the carbon Pesach. So maybe we should all be able to gather in Yerushalayim and offer the carbon Pesach on the 14th of Iyar, today, Pesach Sheni. Now, the truth is it's a disputed issue in the Talmud, because one opinion says yes, but the other opinion says no. It's only if you could have offered it on Pesach, but you were not able to, you could make it up a month later. But if nobody could have offered it on the actual Pesach, then Pesach Sheni has no applicability. Okay, well, had the Beis Hamikdash been rebuilt before today, we at least could have argued about it, which opinion we were going to follow. But with sunset last night, and sadly the Beis Hamikdash was not rebuilt, then Pesach Sheni has no applicability. That option is out. Some people have the custom on Pesach Sheni today to eat matzah, but it is not in any way to make up for whatever we did on the actual Pesach, whether we did eat matzah or not. It is simply a zecher, a reminder of the fact that when the Beis Hamikdash was standing, and when it will stand in the future, if a person could not offer the carbon Pesach at the right time, they could offer it on Pesach Sheni, but it's only a reminder, a memory. Some people have that custom, but it is not binding. Also, some congregations have the custom, like at ADATH, that on Pesach Sheni, the custom is that we omit tachanun in the davening. So if you did not say tachanun today, feel free to omit it. However, Pesach Sheni is an opportunity to at least remember the lessons and ideas of Pesach Sheni. And I've shared some of these with you before. Let me just briefly share one of them today. So in reading the Psukim, the Torah says, okay, so they're getting ready, again from Parshas Balosko, who I was reading before, they're getting ready for the first Pesach in the desert, and Vayihi Anoshim Asher Hayu Tameim Lenefesh Adam. There were a certain number of people who were tamei, ritually impure, because they had to attend to someone who had passed away, and there was no one else to attend to them, so that's an overriding mitzvah, so they were tamei, so they could not offer the carbon Pesach. V'lo yochlu lasos haPesach b'yamahu. And they were not able to offer the carbon Pesach. Vayikru lifnei Moshe v'lifnei Aaron b'yomahu, and they came before Moshe and Aaron on that day, Vayomru ha'anashim ha'hema elav. And these people said to Moshe, Anachnu tmeim lenefesh adam. We are tamei because of this overriding mitzvah that we had to do. Lama nigara levilti hakriv es karban Hashem b'moado. Why should we lose out from being able to offer the carbon to Hashem at the right time, b'soch b'nei Israel? Why should we lose out? Hashem said, I'll ask Hashem what to do. Moshe said, I'll ask Hashem what to do. And then Moshe comes back and says, Hashem said, there's Pesach Sheni, you can make it up a month later. Very significant, the wording of the question. Now, just think about this honestly to yourself. Everyone's on mute. I don't want to hear any answers, but just think about this honestly to yourself. If someone would have come to you the day before Pesach, and they would have said to you, you are excused from Pesach. It's not going to be a sin. You did nothing wrong. You're off the hook. You don't have to do it. Just let it go. Continue the next year because you did something right, not because you did, God forbid, anything wrong. You're exempted legitimately. Don't worry about it. what would your reaction have been? What is interesting, don't tell me your answer. I won't tell you my answer either. What is interesting and so illuminating is they use the following words. Lama nigara levilti hakrives korban Hashem muado. Nigara means, why will we lose out? Why will we be diminished? Why is this taken away from us? They didn't see Pesach as a burden. And by the way, let me just be clear. To make Pesach in the desert was no picnic. You think it was difficult to have to go to IGA and to wait in line and to order food and to worry about all the problems? I promise you, to make Pesach in the desert was more difficult than making it in Côte St. Luc, Montreal, Hampstead during a pandemic. I promise you. But still, Lamandigara, why should we be diminished by not being able to offer it? Their attitude towards wanting to be able to do this mitzvah is exemplary. And I've shared this many times. Our obligation is not only to do a mitzvah, but it's our attitude towards doing it and actually feeling that we are diminished, even if for reasons beyond our control, we are not able to do it. I can't tell you for sure that it's because of their attitude of feeling diminished by not being able to do it that Hashem came up with a plan to be able to make it up. But certainly it stands to reason that that is part of the calculation. Over expressing such a desire to want to do a mitzvah and feeling diminished by not being able to do it. That is a tremendous lesson that all of us can learn from Pesach Sheni, even if it does not have any other practical application in our day. My friends, I wish you a happy Pesach Sheni, a wonderful day. I wish you all a great Shabbos.